Welcome back to the channel, everybody, for another complete set presentation. Today I'm going to take us back to 1982 in honor of Dave Parker, who just passed away. I wanted to be able to pick a set I hadn't presented yet in which he is actually featured. So that left me to look at sets from the mid 80s, and I decided to go with 82, which is a set that I really enjoyed collecting as a kid, even though I wasn't opening packs of this set when I was younger. I enjoyed being able to obtain these cards as I was a little bit older, as I started getting into collecting in 86, because I thought it looked pretty cool. But in particular, I was chasing down copies of this rookie card, in particular because he was my favorite player at the time. So here it is, Cal Ripken Jr.'s rookie card. He's also got a card in the 82 Topps Traded set, which is more coveted. Also was featured in both Donruss and Fleer as well. But what I wanted to be able to point out is the design of the card itself. What this set is often known for is these like hockey stick design, and sometimes it's referred to as. Some features about these cards is they have obviously bright colors for a lot of the different borders that they choose for this, and also the lettering of the team names, positions, and etc. And on the back, you have a green cardstock on this one, which does kind of pop on some of these older cards here. As you can see, obviously the blue ink comes in pretty clearly and it's very easy to read. Unlike actually the traded set, which is actually done in a red cardstock, and so it was a little bit harder to read the blue over the red. So there's my Cal Ripken Jr. rookie card as of it is now. All right, so this set came out obviously in 82, but it was released in a series of wax packs, cello packs, rack packs, and also a complete set variation towards the end of the year. This featured 792 cards, which became the standard issue for this set for several years to come, which was 792. And within this set, you obviously have highlight cards, you have in-action cards, which is the first time they brought those back since 1972. In addition, you also have all-star cards, so it's possible that if you were collecting a player such as your first card here, Steve Carlton, you may have 4 different cards of Steve Carlton to be able to pick up. In addition, potentially to league leader cards, so if he's on a league leader card, you could have even more in that. So what I like about this set is it does feature the star players a lot. I think this was in the transition when they started to try and like make more cards of the star players. I don't know if it was coinciding with the growth of the hobby at this point or not, when people just wanted to get stars and rookies, but it definitely aligned pretty well with that. So I'll talk a little bit about the 82 season as I always do, and let's just kind of jump in here. I'll point out some of the stars and Hall of Famers, starting with the highlights here. We have Steve Carlton, who set the NL strikeout career record at that point. We have Tim Raines over here in the corner, who got 71 bases as a rookie in 81. Here we got the NL hits mark, who he passed Sam Usual, Pete Rose. Got Nolan Ryan, who did his 5th no-hitter. And also want to point out, obviously, we have Fernando Valenzuela here, who had 8 shutouts as a rookie, was a star in that postseason. So definitely don't want to miss him to be able to highlight him, as we do miss him to this day, as he passed away this past fall. We have Ron Guidry, who was an ace in this era for the Yankees. Here we have our first in-action card. So unlike the 72 set, where the in-action cards kind of fell in certain areas of the set for each series, this one is just going to fall whenever, and it's going to be aligned with some of the star players from that era. We got Darrell Evans, pretty good power hitter. Got Gary Maddox, a pretty good outfielder at that time. We have another Cal Ripken rookie year card in here. Got Tommy Herr, who was part of the St. Louis Cardinal team that won the World Series, actually over the Milwaukee Brewers at that point. Got Tom Seaver, one of my favorite players from this era. Here's our first team leader card. You can see we have Al Oliver featured here as a Ranger. Al Oliver had a really good season that year. Could have possibly been the MVP, but he wasn't. He actually led the league in average and also was tied for the league lead with Dale Murphy, who was the MVP for that year in RBIs. So that's kind of interesting seeing Al Oliver on there. I mentioned the playoffs. The other 2 playoff teams were the California Angels at the time and also the Atlanta Braves. I see Gene Garber featured from the Braves. Lou Whitaker, hopefully gets some reconsideration for the Hall of Fame at some point. Here we got Dave Parker, who I just mentioned, as an action card. Both are in pretty good shape. So I like about these sets from the 80s, you can still get cards in really good shape and you don't have to like go out of your way to find them either. The big rookies for this set obviously was Ripken. We'll also see the Smith's rookie. We also have some other interesting rookie cards of, I believe Terry Francona's got one in here, who might be a Hall of Fame manager. In addition to that, we have Mike Scioscia's rookie card, I believe, in this set too. So he could be potentially Hall of Fame manager as well. We also have the rookie card of Dave Stewart. He was a good pitcher during the late 80s, early 90s. And we got Nolan Ryan featured here on the 81 pitching leaders. Remember the 81 season where they had the strike, so they didn't play as many games and they split into two halves of the seasons. So some of the numbers from the 81 season are a little weird as a result of it. And we got Tim Raines. Got Tommy John up here. Jim Palmer, and Jim Palmer in action. Also have Steve Balboni rookie. How about that one? I always thought it was a fun name to say as a kid. Here we have the Nolan Ryan. Mine's not in the best shape or centered. Ozzie Smith is the last card as a Padre. George Brett featured on the Royals League leader here. No problem with the pages there. Got Mike Schmidt, obviously a superstar at this point. Kirk Gibson. Carlton Fisk. He was featured first as a White Sox in the Update Traded Series for 81, but here's his 82 card. And I always like this in-action shot of Fisk right here of him diving. That's one of the better ones, I think. Gaylord Perry, who actually won his 300th game during this season. Here's Terry Francona, as I mentioned before. Danny Ainge was featured here, obviously, in this set. His baseball rookies of the previous year, before he hung up his cleats in favor of basketball shoes. Obviously had more success doing that sport. Little Mookie Wilson right there. Bob Horner was a pretty good player at this era. Ted Simmons, Hall of Famer. Here we got Ricky Henderson featured on there with the A's leaders. Here we got our league leaders. This is from the 81 season. We got our batting leaders. Carney Lancer, forget about that name. Home run leaders, we have a couple of different players featured on here of note. Schmidt and Murray being Hall of Famers, but we got some near Hall of Famers of Dwight Evans and Bobby Grich on there. Run, bat, and in leaders, we got Murray and Schmidt. Stolen base leaders, we got Raines and Henderson. Not a surprise there. They also were the stolen base leaders during the 82 season. 81 victory leaders, we had Tom Seaver, Jack Morris listed on here. Pete Vukovich, who was our AL Cy Young Award winner during this season. Got El Presidente Denny Martinez on there as well. Strikeout leaders, Fernando Valenzuela of note. Len Barker, pretty good pitcher at that time. Earned run leaders, Nolan Ryan. Rolade relief bands, we got Fingers and Suter, both Hall of Famers there. Got the Hall of Fame card, or rookie card of Chili Davis. Also got Bob Brenly on there. Steve Garvey, great player in his right. Phil Niekro, already was looking old by this point. Keith Hernandez still with the Cardinals there, featured there. So these pictures sticking a little bit on the side. So it's taking me a little longer to get them. Paul Molitor. Tim Walk was a pretty good player. J.R. Richard towards the end of his career here. We got George Brett. Solid looking card here. I think that's a nice looking chart there. Jesse Barfield was a good player during this era. Bobby Mercer towards the end of his career and he came back to the Yankees. Keith Hernandez. That's a pretty cool picture right there of his uniform and name on the back there. Dave Stewart, that's his rookie, as I mentioned before. All right, moving on. Bucky Dent, fun player during this era. Got Fred Lynn, still, this time he was no longer with the Red Sox. He's moved over to the Angels. And they had a pretty good outfield right there. Obviously, Reggie Jackson on there. Some other things kind of note that happened during the 82 season. Cal Ripken actually started his consecutive game streak on May 30th of that year. It was also the first season where they didn't have a no-hitter since 1959. And the Hall of Fame inductions were pretty interesting too, because you had two all-time greats. You had Hank Aaron inducted during this year along with Frank Robinson. We also had Travis Jackson from the 20s, 30s with the Giants, and also had former commissioner Happy Chandler brought in, who was brought into the Hall of Fame that year. Tony Perez in action. Bruce Sutter. Look at that big beard, man. Woo, it's awesome. Bump Willis, I think, was always a great name for a baseball player, in my opinion. Bill Russell, Rod Carew, featured on here. Good old Bob Walk, unfortunate name for a pitcher. Here we got Reggie, superstar at this point. I think right before he went over to the Angels. I think he was with the Angels during this season, if I'm not mistaken. Here we have Don Sutton, Hall of Fame pitcher. Called Dusty Baker, potential Hall of Fame manager right there. Good ball player in his right too. Former broadcaster of the White Sox, Ed Farmer here. Right passed along. Brings us to our All-Star cards. So we got Pete Rose, Lopes, Schmidt, Concepcion, Dawson, Foster. These are all big names in this era. Parker, Carter, Valenzuela, Seaver, Suter. That's a great list of NL All-Stars. So the NL All-Stars come, or AL All-Stars come a little bit later. Got those all flipped around. Dwight Evans was on that page. Bill Madlock, pretty good player, is featured here. Jim Cott, Hall of Fame pitcher. Dusty Baker. Bruce Hurst, a pretty good pitcher in his career there with the Red Sox. Eddie Murray. Ken Brett, George's brother. Got a chance to play together at this point. Got Johnny Bench towards the end of his career. Only featured in one more Topps issue, which is the following year. Ron Say, pretty good ball player. Don Baylor. Steve Stone, current White Sox broadcaster. Eddie Murray featured up here. Good old Vida Blue. Robin Yount. Dave Rigetti, that was his rookie card. Actually, it was a kind of a pricier card at some point during the 80s when he was leading the league in saves for the American League, as that was kind of still a newer stat in a sense. Jack Morris, and a lot of value was being put in relievers at that point. Here's the Lee Smith rookie card. Good old Jack Clark right there. All right, so I do mention like some of the other highlights from the season. So your rookie of the years were Steve Sax from the Dodgers and also Cal Ripken. Your Cy Young Award winners, already mentioned Pete Vukovich, but we also had Steve Carlton was the Cy Young Award winner that year. And Dale Murphy was your NL MVP, and Robin Yount, who we just saw, was your AL MVP. And I'll go over individual stat leaders here in a minute that I've already mentioned. Alan Trammell, just a sharp looking card right here if you ask me. Steve Carlton, ever coveting that card. I loved it when I had it as a kid. I don't know why, maybe it was the big hair right here. Dennis Eckersley. Rod Carew. Brett Butler, pretty good player during the late 80s, early 90s. Craig Nettles. Fernando Valenzuela. Larry Boa. Andre Dawson, Lou Piniella. I loved looking at Dawson cards from the Montreal Expos. Reggie Smith, who's still a pretty good player at this point. And here we got our AL All-Stars. We got Carew, Randolph, George Brett, Buck Bucky Dent, Reggie Jackson, Ken Singleton, Dave Winfield, Carlton Fisk, McGregor, Morris, and Gossage. There's actually 2 cards in here. Not sure why. Huh. Nice that there was 2 Ripkens, but not. Good old Willie Randolph there. Pretty good shortstop in his time, man. I think he played actually second base now I think about it. He's a second baseman. Yep, Randolph was a second baseman. Raleigh Fingers. Those blue satin jackets. Got Bobby Bonds up here too. Got Yogi's son Dale. Al Oliver. Oliver should get some Hall of Fame consideration at some point. Got Dave Winfield. Ricky Henderson. A lot of people love this card. It is kind of cool because he looks like he's just about ready to steal off the pitcher right there. Joe Niekro also starting to look old by this point. Just like his brother. Got Booney. Ken Griffey Sr. Fergie Jenkins. Where he returned to the Cubs. Pete Rose. I'm sorry, the Mike Scioscia rookie's in 81. This is his first card featured by himself. Pete Vukovich featured by himself. Frank White, good player too. But Carl Yastrzemski up here. These inactions are pretty cool looking cards. Dave Concepcion. Dale Murphy. MVP, maybe future Hall of Famer at some point. Harold Baines. Current Hall of Famer. There's the Steve Stacks rookie card. Burt Bryleven. Let's go over some of your individual leaders. Your batting leaders, I mentioned Al Oliver was one, but also in the American League, Willie Wilson. Home run leaders, we had Gorman Thomas from the Brewers. No, he wasn't actually with the Brewers at that point, I don't think. And then we had Reggie Jackson and Dave Kingman in the American League. And then we also had RBI leaders. We had McRae, Murphy, and Tide Oliver. Wins was Hoyt with the White Sox and Steve Carlton. ERA leaders was Rick Sutcliffe and also Steve Rogers. And as I mentioned before, Henderson and Raines were your stolen base leaders. All right, let's continue on with the cards. George Foster. Oh, Mickey Rivers. Kind of a fun character. Willie Stargell, Pop. Gary Carter. Interesting printing error on this Davey Lopes there. Jim Rice, former MVP. Joe Morgan, also former MVP. This is a really eye-catching card, the way they use the green and the brown. Because it's more like an orangish brown, but it kind of goes really well. It's the Giants brown. Got Tom Seaver featured with Ken Griffey. Last few pages here. Got Bill Buckner still as a Cub. Former Thomas, the Brewers. Goose Gossage. I got Pete Rose. And our last page ends with Frank Tanana. And that is it. This is the 82 top set. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be back next month with another complete set. Not sure exactly when. We have the National coming up next month, finishing up this card room in 2 weeks. I'm waiting for the last thing to be done, which will be done in 2 weeks. And I hope to be able to put a video together for that. And obviously I'll have feature another card from the 67 High Series, as well as another card from the Diamond Star set. And I just got word on Friday that SGC has finished grading my order. So I should have a reveal coming soon. I'm just waiting for it to go through the post-grading process to get ready to be shipped, which may happen as early as tomorrow. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will be back soon.